The 1960s Batman TV series is one of the most underrated superhero adaptations ever made. It gets flack nowadays for being too cheesy and too campy, but in actuality it's a pretty accurate depiction of the Batman character, especially when you take into account how goofy the comics were getting for years leading up to the show. Batman was made when color television was just entering the mainstream, and it used it to its full potential. The show's visuals made it feel just like a comic book that had come to life.
What's that? Holy showcase!
The show became an instant hit. The silly gadgets, goofy one-liners, and fight scenes implementing that sweet onomatopoeia brought a lot of charm to these characters and stories. All the performances were great, with Adam West and Burt Ward completely embodying their characters of Batman and Robin respectively, setting the standard for what it truly meant to be the dynamic duo. The show brought us many memorable villains too, like Cesar Romero's Joker, Burgess Meredith's Penguin, Julie Newmar's Catwoman, Frank Gorshin's Riddler, Vincent Price's Egghead, and Victor Buono's King Tut. The list goes on and on. One major Batman villain that was absent from the show, despite his debut taking place more than 20 years prior in the comics, was Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face. His colorful and vibrant appearance would have made him a natural fit for the tone and visuals of the show. However, the series producers felt he was too dark for younger audiences, with his first appearance supposedly going to involve a TV set exploding in his face, causing his disfiguration. Clint Eastwood was then apparently cast in the role, and the show intended on bringing the character in during Season 3 or the planned Season 4, but before it could go anywhere, the series was cancelled. In 2013, DC released a comic series titled Batman 66, which told various one-off stories set within the same universe of the show. It featured many of our favorite villains, but also added in characters like Poison Ivy, Bane, Harley Quinn, and Solomon Grundy, that never got to see the light of day in the series, or in Harley Quinn and Bane's case, weren't around at the time the show was made. In 2015, they adapted a story treatment featuring Two-Face, written by Harlan Ellison, that went unproduced for the 1960s television series. It was called The Two-Way Crimes of Two-Face, and was much longer than the other stories in the Batman 66 line, and without a doubt, by far the best in my opinion. I will be reviewing it in its entirety today. We begin our story in the Northby Auction House in uptown Gotham, where the city's richest and most glamorous socialites have gathered. Before the special item they have been invited there for is revealed, the lights go out and the auctioneer assures them that it was meant to happen. The items, which are the Chang Dynasty blue porcelain glazes, need to be properly viewed under candlelight, and they are brought out by a group of butlers on a wheeled cart. As they gather around to take a closer look, the butler, who had been standing closest to the candles, begins to lose his face, which is melting off. The man becomes frustrated and abandons his disguise, revealing himself as Two-Face. Deuce, Twain, might as well reveal ourselves, boys. And you, ladies and gentlemen, I suggest you stand quite still, as my associates and I take our leave. After all, you wouldn't want to make my double-barreled buddy here angry now, would you? Splendid. Then with that, we'll just say, toodle-doo. Cut to police headquarters where Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara dial up the red bat phone and contact the Caped Crusaders. They all arrive at the auction house and begin their investigation. However, they are quickly interrupted by a pair of St. Bernards pulling a little red wagon. Holy paper scroll, Batman, there's a note! Precisely as I expected, Robin. Kindly hand it here. Gosh, Batman, what does it say? It says, Robin, I hope this will fix your little red wagon, and it's signed insincerely yours, Two-Face. As the two figure out the meaning to the message, the auctioneer notices that the Chang porcelain pieces have been placed in the wagon, restored, with the long missing piece included. Batman states that Two-Face's coin must have landed good side up, this time at least. Later in the Batcave, Batman and Robin discuss the origin of Two-Face, which is similar to the one depicted in many adaptations of the character. Harvey Dent was the district attorney prosecuting mob boss Lucky Maroney, who became enraged, throwing acid at Dent's face. Batman tries to save him, but is too late, and the entire left side of Dent's face is hideously scarred. Batman then goes on to explain that if his special coin, which is Maroney's lucky two-headed coin, which Dent scarred one side of, lands bad side up, Two-Face keeps what he steals. If it lands good side up, he returns it with interest. Next time, they might not be so lucky. Batman enters everything they know about Two-Face into the Batcomputer, and it spits out 2 likely scenarios. The duo split up, with Robin helping the Gotham police prevent a kidnapping at the Flying Toomey Twins' aerial act, and Batman keeping a close eye on the other possibility. 2 hours later, we see that Two-Face and his men have robbed the 2-day motorcycle finals, which were looking to give out $200,000, as well as several 2-wheeled vehicles as the grand prize. They hop onto a motorcycle housing double sidecars, while the Batmobile is in hot pursuit. As they approach 2 semi-trucks side by side, Two-Face activates a switch which separates the motorcycle into 3, allowing them to drive through. Batman is able to fire a bat tracer from the front of the Batmobile, though, which attaches to Two-Face's bike. Despite losing them, the Caped Crusader now has a way to find them. Robin arrives at the second location after securing the first one. He finds that Batman and Two-Face have gone, so he uses his infrared Bat Omni-Beam to follow the Bat Tracer's trail left behind by Two-Face, which of course Batman is already following. Two-Face and his goons are ambushed by Batman at their hideout, located in a decommissioned lunar observatory. Batman makes short work of the petty thugs, but Two-Face points his shotgun at Batman and begins flipping his coin. "How many times do I have to tell you that Harvey Dent is gone, Batman? Oh well, I suppose considering my shotgun, this will be the last. I'm going to let my coin decide your fate, as always. Heads, you live. Tails, well, I'll give you 2 guesses." The coin miraculously lands on end though, which infuriates Two-Face, claiming it had to have been a trick. Batman tells him to choose his own destiny, and Harvey chooses to kill him. Batman manages to reflect light into Two-Face's eyes with the help of his trusty bat buckle, which causes him to miss. He then proceeds to punch his disfigured foe square in the face. Robin runs in and slips on a shotgun shell, tumbling into his partner and allowing Two-Face to escape. Later, he speaks to them over the bat radio. "Just wanted you to know that my next caper will make royal idiots out of you both. Unless, of course, you think you can stop us." Royal idiots? An obvious clue, Boy Wonder. It's no coincidence the twin princesses of Yankapur, wearing their twin jeweled tiaras, will be arriving in Gotham at 2 a.m. at Dock 2. Harvey is challenging us. Two-Face snatches the crowns while swinging from a freight hook and proceeds to jump onto a boat parked beside the dock, making for a seemingly quick and clean getaway. Batman and Robin pursue Two-Face and his goons in the Batcopter, but soon find that his boat has vanished while approaching an island. Batman dives into the water to take a closer look, while Robin pilots the Batcopter and keeps it out of sight. Batman discovers an underground lake inside the island, and Two-Face is holed up inside an old ship. Batman confronts the villain, but finds that they were waiting for him all along. Batman and Two-Face battle with cutlasses, but Two-Face cuts a rope, causing a part of the mast to swing into Batman from behind. When Batman awakens, he finds the sword of Demosthenes hanging above him, and Two-Face plans to sever the rope holding it and take out the Dark Knight twice and for all, as he puts it. Batman reminds Two-Face of his coin, and that he was about to make a decision without it. Two-Face changes the stakes. If the coin lands on heads, Batman will die by the sword, and tails, he will be dragged beneath the ship and die much slower and painfully. Batman also adds that if it lands on edge again, Two-Face must surrender. He agrees, knowing the chances of that happening again are impossible. The coin lands on its edge again and Two-Face is baffled. He goes to cut the rope holding the sword anyways, and Batman escapes having picked his shackles. Despite all his anger, Batman says he won the coin toss and that Harvey must listen to its outcome. Reluctantly, Two-Face surrenders to Batman. The next day at Wayne Manor, Bruce explains to Alfred and Dick that he switched Harvey's coin out with one that was weighted on one side during their fight. He also hopes that the doctors can save Harvey. When you're dealing with a maniac like Two-Face, who knows which way the coin will fall. There you have it, Batman 66, the Lost episode. It's far from perfect and no masterpiece by any means, but I do find it to be a fascinating piece of Batman history, a what-if, so to speak, in terms of Two-Face and his appearance in the live-action Batman TV show. Even though this story was scripted and greenlit, it never officially aired. The thought of who would have played the character and what he would have looked like has been a topic of speculation for years among Bat fans, and sadly, we will never really know. Thankfully, we have this comic book here, and the amazing artwork by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, as well as the coloring by Alex Sinclair, which faithfully adapt the television series, and brings this character we never got to witness to life. They make everything feel natural, and it matches the original tone and look of the show brilliantly. Two-Face's disfigured side was originally going to be blue, but was changed to green in order to distinguish this version from the one featured in Batman the Animated Series. I think it was the right change, seeing as the classic look he had in the comics was green as well. The Two-Way Crimes of Two-Face is a fun story, and fitting for the character, as well as the campy and goofy style of Batman featured in the iconic show. I will admit that some elements just wouldn't have worked though, like Two-Face threatening to dismember Batman, trying to shoot him with a double-barreled shotgun, or his false face melting beside the candles, horrifying the rich folk. It would have been a bit too scary for younger viewers, not to mention the face melting would have needed some unique special effects. Some of the visuals seem a bit too violent too, with the acid being thrown on Dent's face in the courtroom, and the terrified look in his eyes when it seeps into his skin. Nasty stuff. This version of Batman never really failed like that, not to that extent, so it seems very out of place for that character. Even the vehicle chase would have been unfeasible back then with the motorcycle splitting in three and driving between the two trucks. By the third season, the budget for the show had been cut, so even if they attempted it, it would have looked much different than what we got here. Some elements of Harlan Ellison's script were altered or improved upon by the late Len Wein, but the whole face-melting thing and the motorcycle chase were in the original script, so, regardless, they were bold creative choices and might have been a factor leading to it not being produced. There are a lot of references to the number 2 throughout the story, which you'd expect seeing as it's centering on Two-Face, but here, it's a bit funnier because of the lighthearted nature of the 60s TV show. I found myself laughing at many of them, which was a good thing. The pair of St. Bernards that just stroll in, even the term yoked being used meaning two, when Batman and Robin are playing cat and mouse with Two-Face, and he robs various places, a baseball stadium during a double-header, or a movie theater on 2nd Street, where he returns the cash because of his coin. Cheesy stuff. Even at the end when the Batcopter is pursuing the boat, it's a catamaran, which features 2 hulls of equal size. Batman 66, The Lost Episode, was the most fun I've had reading a comic book in some time. Mind you, I read it when it first came out, but rereading it for this review was very enjoyable. I'm glad I got the chance to. Another great 60s Batman Two-Face item to check out is the animated film Batman vs. Two-Face that came out last year, which was the final role of Adam West before his death. It isn't outstanding, and I think the comic does the Two-Face character better justice, but it wouldn't hurt to give it a watch because, once again, it's a fascinating what-if scenario. This has been NerdGasm. Thanks for watching the video, take care, and see you next time.